Look at you smirking already, man. What's good, fam? Welcome back to the Veterans of the Game podcast. It's a podcast about the lifestyles, the leisure activities, and sometimes even the laugh out loud moments of our fellow service members. I am your host, Chief Warrant Officer Maine Terry, and today we have a very esteemed guest of mine, Army veteran Mr. Joseph Anderson. How you doing, Joe?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Other than the heat, I know this is a recurring theme for you guys watching the podcast, but it's hot in Texas. It's very hot, ridiculously hot down here. So where are you at in the world, man?
Virginia, Northern Virginia at the moment.
Northern Virginia. Is it 108 degrees there today?
It is not 108 degrees. It's, I want to say upper 80s, but it's like super, super sweltering humid.
Oh, upper 80s. You know, I think it gets down into the upper 80s at around 3 a.m. here.
Sure. Yeah. You're a little bit farther south than I am.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a skosh, right? That's what this is. This is a skosh right here. All right, man. Well, before we get into it, I just want to bring everybody's attention to our socials. Please follow, like, subscribe to the Ebony Ascent platform. You can find us on Twitter at Ascent Ebony. You can find us on Instagram and on YouTube at Ebony Ascent. Facebook as well at Ebony Ascent. So do all the things like subscribe, hit the notification bells, follow the newsletter, the emails, all of that stuff. All right, Joe, you ready to get into it, man?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So for the people out there watching, man, describe your military journey. What was your time in service like?
Ooh, my military journey. That is a little bit of a struggle. I'm not going to lie. So I came in 2004. I was part of that set of kids that, like, we were college age, already out of high school, but not sure what we were doing with our lives when 9/11 happened. And a couple of friends of mine and we did that dance of should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I. And I wasn't doing real well in school, so I was like, okay, well, let's figure out something else. I was a musician at the time. It was ridiculous, but I wasn't a very good student, so I decided, okay, let's go do something else. And I joined the military, and I went and talked to the recruiters, and they got me up to MEPS and all that other nonsense. And
so where'd you join the military from?
I'm sorry, I was in Kansas. So I'm a military brat. I'm from everywhere, but I kind of claim Kansas as home. I was at Kansas State University. I was a music student there. So I go up to MEPS in Kansas City, and I had every intent of being a grunt. But in the middle of two wars, they did not like people who had half a brain being grunts. And so the one lie that my recruiters and the people at MEPS told me was that I couldn't choose to be a grunt. I would have to choose something else. It was not as grunt-like. And so I
hold up, man, because I don't like the way you explain that. So you said they didn't want people who had half a brain. So is that to insinuate that grunts don't have a brain?
I'm not insinuating anything. I will tell you from my experience, the infantry guys that I dealt with in the Army were some of the smartest people on the planet.
Yeah.
I cannot. These guys had more common sense in their little pinkies than some of my soldiers, my intel soldiers, had in their entire bodies.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to the people at MEPS, they had the thought in their head that combat arms should be, at least enlisted combat arms, should be restricted to people who had less than a 110 GT score.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said if your GT score was under a certain point, they'd, fine. But anybody over like a 110 or 115 or something like that, they were pushing them towards Intel MOSs or other non-combat arms MOSs that were more technical capacity. I know there were some like electronic warfare guys that they were looking for. And I mean, you remember that time they were really short on humanitars at the time. So that was one of the very short list of things. And I mean, I didn't know, this was 2004. I had no idea what was going on at the time. But the messaging was very clear at the MEP station. Your GT score. This is my humble brag for this podcast, right? Like,
okay, humble brag.
Here's my humble brag is they were like, okay, your GT score is too high. You can't be a common arms. Which I was honestly, I almost walked out. That was the point. I was like, I want to go do something that's a little bit more cool. And they were like, yeah, no. So I almost turned around and went to the Marine Corps place. That was a little bit frightening. So I came back around. They gave me a list of MOSs, and I came back around, and I was like, interrogator. That looks cool.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Let's do that. I'll be an interrogator. So I joined up as a 97 Echo, basic at Sand Hill down at Fort Benning, which is weird because it's like there's only like one battalion that's not infantry, and I was like, I ended up not infantry, but I ended up in the infantry place.
It's the cruel irony of joining the Army, I tell you.
Then Huachuca for 97 Echo AIT.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty straightforward, that was when the classes were still very small. There was maybe, I want to say 20 people total in my class. That was when they were still really focused on interrogation as a piece of it.
Yeah. That's really small because I joined I switched over as a 97 Echo before they consolidated all Intel into 35 series, but they had already started kind of pushing a lot of people through. There was a couple hundred people there when I went through.
Yeah.
So man, 20 people was that like your platoon or your entire class size?
So our platoon was a class size at that time, the way they did it. So yeah, I got there in September, I think September of 04. And when we came back from the Christmas holiday break was when the first class of 120 or 130, whatever it was there. That was when they started doing that transition to real big classes. They built what they called 8 Mile down on another part of, like, there was a whole nother company involved. None of that existed when I got there. It all existed after I left. So it was a very small class, we were still doing, meetings at Burger King, at Jeannie's Diner, that kind of thing when I got there. And they sent me up to DLI after that at Monterey, California to do Arabic. It was not the language I wanted, but it was definitely better than some of the ones that some other people got. That is 15 months, I think. I think I got there in April or March of 05 and was there until the summer of 06. Which wasn't a bad time. I mean, it's really hard to be in anything of a bad mood when you're in Monterey, California. So probably my favorite duty station, really.
And it was just a training.
It was a training, but it was Monterey, California. Man. I surfed on the weekends. So it was really hard to beat that.
I hate you so much. This is not going to become the Humble Brag podcast, by the way.
So after that, they said, okay, you're going to go to Fort Bragg. So I ended up at Fort Bragg, and that was the beginning of the good times, I guess. I got there in 06. We pushed out to Iraq in September 07, and we were there for 15 straight months, and that was intense. So the whole brigade deployed at the same time. 519th went to Iraq, 319th went to Afghanistan. I was in the 519th. We were most people were spread throughout the whole country, but myself and about 50 others got to go be augmentees of a special joint task force. Those who have been to Fort Bragg or know anybody who's behind that fence, know what that means, like know what that unit is. It was a very special experience for me. I was very humbled by it and was very excited to be part of it. But man, it was intense. And working for those people for 15 months straight overseas was just mind numbing and awesome all at the same time. That was where I got the bulk of my interrogation experience. I mean, we were doing 3 full interrogations every single day. These are the people that I was working with were focused in the north of Iraq, so it was all Al Qaeda related stuff. But it was 3 full interrogations a day plus our reports, and then you get up and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
And the only time you really get a break is if you go out on mission with these guys, which didn't happen a ton, but it happened some. And that takes its toll after a while. You know, a lot of people don't know about how emotionally draining an interrogation really is.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've talked about that in your podcast before, but because I know you've got some interrogation experience, but it's very mentally and emotionally draining like thing to do, and then having to do it 3 times a day, so hours of your day just dedicated to that. 365 for 15 straight months is just, you're done. You know, even at the end of the day, you're just worn out.
Yeah.
So we did that. We got back, came back in 07, or I'm sorry, at the end of 08. And almost immediately they called us again and said, hey, can you send some of these people back? Because, you know, you guys redeploying kind of hurt us. So I ended up going back for another 3-month tour with them. This time I was working for kind of the same people, but working solely with foreign fighters. That was another very cool experience. Got to do a little bit more specific things that, you know, were unique to that particular organization. By the time I came back.
So you actually redeployed and went back to Bragg and then deployed again.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was only home for 6 months, I think, before I went back.
Yeah, you do the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right.
Dad, you pick the subscribe button, thumbs up.
Thumbs up. That may happen one or 2 more times before we finish this.
I'm a dad too. So yeah, I was only home for about 6 months, and then I went back for that 3-monther, and then I came home, and then the very following July we went to Afghanistan. So I spent less than, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I was home for 9 months between the first 2, and then I came home and I was home for 6 months, and then we went again to Afghanistan for a year. That was conventional. That was with the 519th again. And I was running a field detention site out in off of Bagram. Very much a pogue, you know, FOBIT there, that deployment. But another, you know, lots of interrogation experience kind of thing. By the time I got back from there, it was time to PCS because I had been at Bragg at that point for 5.5 years. And that's where I met you. I ended up at Fort Riley.
Yes.
Very short tour, was not my favorite. It was downright just horrible. Honestly, if it wasn't for the people there, it would have been like it probably would have forced me out of the Army.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you remember what it was like for me. I was TDY something like 12 times in 22 months. And some of those were the long ones like SOC and ALC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Plus all the cool stuff that we got to do. You guys sent me to, and yeah, I'm putting most of this on you specifically because I can't.
That's fine. I still have the paperwork to back up my side of the story.
what you guys sent me to NTC to be a guest observer trainer for what, twice in a row?
Was it? Well, I know we did 2 NTC rotations.
You did
So
two NTC. I went as an OCT
yeah,
twice in a row. Came
was
back,
it twice?
went to JRTC. Me and Sergeant Keeney went to JRTC as an OCT, and then we went as the rotational unit while I was there once back to
Yeah,
NTC.
yeah,
So it was a constant back and forth. I was never home. I was never, stationary in one place long enough to get my feet wet doing anything. And you guys were doing your own thing, and they're like, "Oh well, Sergeant Anderson's going to be TDY again, so we're not going to include him in that." But it turned out okay because I was only there for less than 2 years, and then they sent me to Gordon. And let's see, for Gordon, they put me on the battalion staff for about 2 months, and then I volunteered to go back to Iraq. This was 2014, so we were going back in after the drawdown.
hmm
I led a combined team of CI HUMIT guys, and we were doing, debriefings and CI threat assessments, that kind of thing. Got back from that, ended up doing some time in the training room at the company there that was all the HUMITers. Led a couple more training, like big training exercises out to the IDIF in San Antonio while I was there.
hmm
And then I ended up spending a year in Qatar doing debriefings out there. So we were stationed in Qatar doing debriefings there, UAE and Bahrain. Another wonderful experience, doing real world stuff that was a little more strategic debriefing kind of focused. Unfortunately, while I was there, I was, doing what I could, but my back started giving me some real problems towards the end of that tour.
yeah,
I came back in January of 18, and by March they had put me in for a med board. It accelerated really badly, like really
hmm
quickly. Between, I'd say, November of 17, the last month or two I was there, and the first month or two I was back, like I don't remember what it was. I don't know if there was like a fall or something like that. I never remember having anything like that, but they said that something should have instigated it. But my back started getting to the point where I couldn't do any bending. I couldn't do any, like, I couldn't even lay down on the bed and sleep on the bed for a full night.
yeah,
So they did a med board. I ended up getting medically retired. And in September of 2018, I went on terminal leave. And that was my time in the Army. I was not prepared for it. I was trying to get to 20 years and retire like a regular thing, but I ended up only doing 14, and then now I'm a retiree, whatever that means.
yeah.
So
Um,
that's my
n-
time.
Now you said that you went to DLI for Arabic, and
Yeah.
you got a chance to deploy to Iraq, Qatar,
Yep.
Bahrain.
Yep.
Did your language were you able to kind of utilize your language schools or your language skills? Sorry.
Yes. So actually, quite a bit more than I thought I would.
Okay.
I I was not good at Arabic. Like I never really got to the level that I wanted to get with it.
hmm
But especially when I was in Iraq the first time, we got to the point because when you're doing an interrogation, you're doing a lot of talking, but so is the other person. And when you're talking to that person and you hear that language day in and day out for hours and hours and hours, you can't help but pick it up. And because I had the basis already, like I already knew the basic grammar, I knew a lot of words and stuff like that, especially in general conversational topics. And especially in topics that I was being exposed to every single day, I got to a point where I could understand every single thing they said, like
hmm
word for word. And I would get to the point where I told my interpreters don't even bother translating for them because I got it. I know exactly what to say. And they would try to test me here and there, like, oh, did you catch all that? And I'm like, yeah, he said blah, blah, blah. They're like, okay, good. But I was never good enough to construct it fast enough to do an actual full interrogation in language. That's on me. You know, that was just by the time I got to Bragg, we were so involved in ramping up for this deployment that I just did not prioritize my own language training. And nobody in the unit seemed to really care at that particular point in time. So if I had done a little bit more, maybe I could have gotten that. And if the day-to-day pace while I was on that first deployment had been a little bit less intense, maybe I could have put some time into like learning how to get those speaking skills up, but I never really did. But it definitely came into effect there. Both those first two deployments to Iraq, it definitely came in handy. My third Iraq deployment, I didn't really get that much exposure to Iraqis, since it was kind of a friendly forces debriefing kind of thing. When I did, the few times that I did, it did come in handy because we didn't have interpreters. I think we had one for an entire battalion worth of soldiers, and he stayed with the commander for pretty much everything. So it was, I knew just enough that I could get conversations going, and I could have slow conversations with people at that point in time. There was a point, some of the enlisted Iraqi guys were like, hey, you guys are enlisted, right? And we're like, yeah. He's like, well, we don't want to talk to the officers. I was like, okay, cool. What do you need? He's like, they're not going to tell you this, but we really need like dental. And he kept saying, but I was like, I didn't know what the word dental was. Like they kept saying like teeth. I was like, we need a teeth doctor, right? And they're like, yes, we need a teeth doctor, right? So it helped us kind of build some of that camaraderie with them that had been lost since the drawdown. But it wasn't nearly as effective. And of course, in Afghanistan, they don't really speak Arabic. It really only came in handy if I wanted to get into a topic about, the Quran or something like that, and during an interrogation. I will say in Qatar, it was a hell of a lot less useful than you would think it was. And that's because those three countries, especially Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, everybody speaks English there.
I was wondering if it was like either a different dialect of Arabic or if it's just
it is. So it is a different dialect. When I learned Modern Standard. So it is a different dialect. It's Gulf dialect, but Gulf dialect is really close to MSA, so it's pretty easy to understand them, and it's pretty easy for me to speak MSA to them, and then for them to understand me. I've picked up because of my deployments. I picked up a lot of Iraqi dialect in my language, so they probably knew that I'd been in Iraq at some point. But all the service people there speak English because they're not from there. Like those countries are so rich, they don't do the work there. Like you're not going to find a Qatari citizen who's like an Arab citizen who's born in Qatar that does manual labor.
Yeah,
they just don't do that. The government pays every citizen for the oil profits they get, so they hire people from other countries. A lot of Malaysians, Filipinos, Indians, even some Pakistanis, people from all over pretty much. And the one common thing they have is they have to do business, and the language of business, at least in that part of the world, is English. So we never really had to worry about speaking it. The one exception I'll say is, so we were in Bahrain, and we did, we operated under a philosophy of, work hard, play hard. So we'd done all of our work for the day, and we said, okay, we're going to go out. And because of where we were authorized to drink at that particular time. So my partner and I ended up at meeting some people from the defense attaché office, and we, went to a restaurant, went to a couple of bars, that kind of thing. And we're sitting at a bar in Bahrain. And my partner, who is this 24-year-old female soldier, fantastic humor, wonderful, like one of the most professional people I've ever worked with. she was sitting on one side of the bar, and we had all kind of stopped doing, we were talking to other people or whatever. So she was there by herself for a few minutes, and a Saudi guy comes up and starts talking to her. And of course, she's just like, he's trying to speak to her in Arabic. He has no idea she has no idea what he's saying. He doesn't speak much English. He has no idea what she's saying. And they're doing this back and forth, like trying to talk to each other. And this guy's got to be like 40, 45 years old. I had just enough to drink that night that apparently my language skills got unlocked. And I go over, and I had a feeling like I was gonna kind of flub it, but like words just started popping out of me somehow. All the things that I'd learned at DLI came to the forefront, and I had the best Arabic conversation of my life, in which I figured out that he was trying to propose to her. And when I told him that she was
On
my
the spot?
sister, on the spot, and when I told him that she was my sister, because they don't really like the idea of, women being equals
without having.
So I was like, hey, she's my sister. I got to protect her, blah, blah, blah. And I was just trying to get her away from him. And he goes, oh, well, then I need to negotiate with you. And I was like, well, not really. We're not going to be negotiating. And he apparently took that as I was playing hardball. And we got up to $13 million before I finally looked at it. I was like, I mean, this might be worth it. We decided against it in the end. My bank account's still a little bit sad at me for that. But had I not had that DLI training, I would not have been able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did come in handy, and I still use it today. I'm a stickler for things like proper spellings in reports and stuff like that, especially of Arabic names, because I've got frustrated in the past with seeing reports that had 14 different versions of the word Muhammad, the name Muhammad,
all in the same report.
All in the same report. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got really frustrated with people not understanding the difference between Hamid, Hamad, and Muhammad all in the same report. So I became a little bit of a stickler.
Hold on. Okay, that shows it. Are you done eating?
I want my food to pack.
Okay. All right. Can you turn the light off in there?
Where's my water? Oh.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hold on. I gotta supervise from afar.
Hey, kids are kids, man. I get it. Should have seen me trying to do classes this last year.
Trying to do what?
Trying to do classes this last year with 4-year-old running through here.
Oh, buddy, yeah. When I first started, working with this company, he would climb across my back while I'm, having business meetings, and he's about to tumble down the stairs. I saw you. Go ahead. You did.
Is he 5 yet?
In January he'll be 5. Yeah.
I knew he was close to my son, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, what are they, like 6 months apart or so?
Yeah, Charlie turns 5 in September. So
Oh, okay, about 9 months apart then. Oh wait, he turns 5 in September?
Yeah, he's going to turn 5 in September.
Okay, so
like 5 or 6
months apart. Okay, yeah. All right. I'm sorry to cut you off, man.
No,
where we at?
I think
stickler for Arabic spellings and reports.
Yeah, I'm a stickler for things like that. So that was the wrap up to you asking me about the Arabic language, DLI stuff. What else?
Yeah, I mean, no, you pretty much covered it from alpha to the omega, man. So one thing that I like asking my guests, well, actually there's kind of 2 questions that I like asking. One of them is what was the thing that you took away the most from your time in the Army?
Ooh, don't be fat. I mean,
yeah, and if you're not fat, don't be slow.
yeah. I mean, that feels like I'm making fun, but I'm not. You were my supervisor for a while, so you knew a piece of that. But I struggled with my weight my entire career. It was I was really big, but when I was in college, I'd lost a bunch of weight to get into the Army, but then I struggled to keep it off. Like I never felt like I could really get a handle on getting far enough below so that I had wiggle room. So I always
Yeah.
felt like I was, um, but even when I was, doing well, I always had to be really cognizant about it. And that affected every choice that I made in the Army. That I couldn't, I never felt like I could spend a lot of time weightlifting. And of course, I had really stupid ideas, especially in the first half of my career, about what fitness looked like. That didn't help. So I spent a lot of years in the Army thinking, I can't go weightlift because it'll make me too heavy.
Hmm.
It'll, I got to go and run more because I got to make sure I get all the extra fat off. I got to burn off all this stuff. And if I could go back now, I could go back with a little bit more knowledge of how things work, and maybe I wouldn't feel that way. But I can remember like, um, uh, you know, when you and I were at Fort Riley, and I took that trip with that other warrant officer to Africa. There were things that I didn't eat while I was there because I was worried about getting my weight up again.
Hmm.
I knew that I had obligations and I had to meet standards. And um, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's it. Don't you gotta take the fitness part if you're going to be in the military. It's and I say that because so I developed this saying somewhere in the last couple of years I was in the Army because I started thinking more about like um, why some people struggle with certain parts of it and why some people don't. Um, and this is, I mean, I'm gonna put this in the framework of our job, but I assume it exists for a lot of the other technical MOSs, especially intel, medical, things like that. Um, but I always saw it as there were two kinds of 35 mics or 97 echoes, whatever, in the
Hmm.
Army. There were soldiers who happened to be doing this job. They happened to be 35 mics. And then there were humaniters who happened to be doing their job in the Army.
Hmm.
And I was one of those latter. I was very passionate about the human part of things. I never got passionate about enough about the fitness part of it, and I should have been more. And the Army tries to make you like this perfect blend of both worlds, right? But it's a difficult line to walk, and I never really crossed over to the whole be a soldier first, move into your technical stuff after that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would say that's one of those main takeaways. Other than that, um, the same thing everybody else tells you, right? Like be in the right place at the right time. Um, the best part of it, piece of advice I ever got in the military was from a sergeant major who told me the day that I got pinned on my E5, he said that every answer to every question I ever had was in the NCO creed, whether it dealt with the Army or not. If I
Hmm.
could look at it and critically think about it, I could probably transfer it to any job, any leadership position in the military or civilian world, and it would apply to some degree. Constant communication, upholding standards, taking care of your people. It's all right there.
That's an interesting take, man. First of all, I've never heard that before. But second, I've never thought to apply everyday decision making to the NCO creed. Um, Obviously, it would be a sergeant major that they would pass that knowledge down to
Correct.
you. But now that I'm thinking about it, it is very much true. You know, always be a professional. Um, when you don't know what to do, at least be there to do something. Take initiative
Yeah.
and make sure that you take care of the people around you and subordinate to you. I mean, it is all there, but I just never really applied it like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Um, uh, you know, um, Even things like, officers, sorry, I've been out for 5 years, 4 years, so it's not fresh in my head anymore. But officers will not have to accomplish my duties, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I still apply that. My boss at work, even though I'm a civilian now, my boss at work is not going to have to do my job, and I'm not going to have other people doing my job. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to enable them to do their job. Officers in my unit will have maximum time to accomplish their duties.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they can't do that if they're doing my job. And so if you apply that, it's hard to go astray.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And one other thing I told you, usually there's two questions that I like to ask. So the other thing is, out of all your time, you did 14 years. So out of all your time in the service, what is the one thing that you wish you could have accomplished that you didn't get a chance to?
Man, that's a really interesting question. If I'm looking back at like my visionary plan when I wanted to be a grunt, sniper school. I always wanted to go to sniper school. Like from the minute I said I'm going to join the Army, I wanted to join sniper. I wanted to go to sniper school, and I got told, 3 or 4 years into it, like, no, if you're not infantry, you're not going to sniper school. I was like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. I'm going to be mad about it, but whatever. Other than that, out like towards the end of my career, the one thing that I wish I had been able to do was go air assault. And I know that sounds silly, but because I'm saying like, yeah, fitness wasn't my thing, and I was a humaniter first and soldier second. But I really wanted to be able to go to that level of, like, that was my goal, was to get to a point where I was fit enough that I could go to a school like that. And maybe it's no big deal for some people. It was a big deal for me, and I wanted to be able to, like, I went, I did it, and it's part of the whole Army piece of it that I just never got around to doing. I'm sure I could have gone at some point, and trained up for it, that kind of thing. I don't think I ever had time to think about it after the first deployment or two.
Yeah, we kept sending you to CTC rotations as a OCT, man.
True story. I spent way too much time in Irwin for not having been deployed, stationed there.
Yeah. You still remember all the nooks and crannies of Irwin and Polk?
That Polk. When you guys sent me to Polk, I was there for 2 days before they said, we need somebody to work on staff. You're the highest ranking person here. Go work on staff. So my time at Polk was literally sitting in a building every day, while I hated it. I will be honest, I hated it. My soldiers were out there like suffering in the sweltering heat, and I was sitting in a building doing stupid slides. It was mind-numbingly dull, and I was pissed that you guys sent me there for a month to sit there and do slides and spreadsheets.
I tell you what, man, that's I hope none of my leadership is watching right now, but that's exactly how I feel today, man. We're sending people down range doing pretty cool human stuff, and I'm sitting in Fort Hood, Texas, in the battalion S3, and my biggest responsibility is making sure that company commanders send up good command and staff slides.
Yeah, you're a warrant officer. You're a warrant officer with what? 19 years in? 18 years in?
I'm at 20, man.
You're
I am
20.
at 20 years.
You're a warrant officer 20 years in. You should be. That's the price of leadership. That's the way I'm in my job right now. Like, do I want to be doing all the collecting? Absolutely. Am I doing any of the collecting? Nope. Not even. Well, okay, a little bit, but most of it, no, because I'm in a position where I have to oversee things and manage the fires that come out. So that's just the price of leadership, man.
Yeah. And you know what? I can dig that. I can dig that once I become staff officer rank. I'm good with that. That with the rank comes that responsibility.
That's right.
But right now I am company grade specialist in human operations, and I want to be doing human operations, not ex-eval slides. But enough about me, man. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch on regarding your career?
Ooh, I mean, kind of gave you the ins and outs. Even to this day, like, even though I struggled, it really was something I look back fondly on. obviously not all of it. I don't look back on Fort Polk with a whole lot of fondness, and I don't look back on random P-test days as fondly. But I did like leading soldiers. I did like being a technical expert in an organization that valued expertise. I really enjoyed being able to get the experiences that I did. I mean, I did some pretty cool stuff while I was in, and I can't imagine a world where I didn't get to do that stuff. Like I found a niche that I was really good at. I wasn't good in the beginning, but I got there. I found a niche that I was good at, and I'm still continuing that expertise today, and I'm still doing those kinds of stuff today, those kinds of things today. But yeah, it was just and you just gotta kind of take the good with the bad. You have to understand the Army for what it is and meet it on its terms. But if you do, you can get a lot out of it. I know I did. So.
Well, that's I mean, it's a good way to look at it. Good take. Especially when your plan was ultimately to retire, I guess, as an infantryman. Um, and circumstances kind of pushed you out before you were ready. But yeah, we can kind of get into what you're doing today. But first, we need to take a short break, pay some bills, and let's listen to a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to High Point, North Carolina. Hey, today we are at the Black Luck Expo.
We at the Black Expo!
So tell us a little bit for those who's watching about the Black Luck Expo.
So the Black Luck Expo is an event that showcases businesses that look like me and you. We typically don't get the platforms often to where we can be together, congregate as one, and just peacefully shop and be amongst one another. So this is what we have here for people. We have vendors from Maryland all the way down to Florida, all the way to Texas to come to this event today.
I told y'all we outside out here in High Point.
Yes, everyone just come out and support the Black Expo, Black businesses, and come and support me and my books because, hey, we're all in this together, okay?
All right, cool.
All right, welcome back to the Veterans of the Game podcast. We're still live on the air with Mr. Joe Anderson. So, Joe, I want to get into it, man. What are you, now that you're not in uniform anymore, what are you passionate about? What are the things that keep you going?
Ooh, passionate. So that's a really loaded word. I like that word, passionate. What am I passionate about? So I'm still passionate about work, thankfully. I was lucky enough that I found myself doing human work outside. It's hard to do because there's not a lot of open spots for people in that particular field. A lot of times you get out of the military, a lot of people go and become contractors, that kind of thing, which is what I did. But a lot of times you end up getting kind of relegated into like an analyst position, which I did for a good year. So it's kind of hard to find an actual place where they'll let you do collection or even collection management. I found a place working in DC. I don't think I'm going to mention the agency in this particular case because of just sensitivities. But I found myself working in an agency as a contractor probably because I didn't have to focus on the Army stuff anymore. I could just focus on the human stuff. I was able to kind of engage that passion and do, all the things that I like to do. And that's all I have to do. I don't have to worry about getting up at 4 a.m. so that I can go run 12 miles or whatever before I go to work and do reports or whatever.
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, I was never the leader that made him run 12 miles at 4 o'clock in the morning.
No, I was the one making myself run 12 miles at 4 o'clock in the morning because I was like, I got to not be fat. So I got to do more. You just made me do wind sprints for an hour. And that was want to throw up, which I thank you for. Really, it was good leadership. That's what I've been told. But yeah, so I'm getting to do that. I actually just became a Fed. I just became a federal employee again. Real heavy competition. I was really proud of the fact that I was able to get that position. And I later on got a sneak peek of some of the resumes of people that I was up against, and my imposter syndrome kicked in because I was like, how did these people how did I get hired above these people? It's insane.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm there and I'm doing my best, and I'm still passionate about that work. I feel like it's not as, defense related stuff anymore. It's, larger topics. But I'm still fighting the good fight, and I'm still part of the IC. I still get to do some of the cooler things that I got to do before. And I mean, I love it. I love going to work, which is one of those things that I hope most people realize. If you can find yourself in a position where you love going to work, even on your bad days, you're extremely lucky. And I feel extremely lucky that I'm in a position like that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that you said it yourself that you were a humanter first.
Yeah.
And a soldier second. So how did that feel, knowing that you were able to land back in the realm of human after the military service was kind of taken away from you?
It's like, well, I'll be honest, it was like taking the rucksack off. You know what I mean? Like when you're doing a 20K ruck march and you're done at the very end, you got all the water in you, you've just been sweating it all out. That moment when you take your rucksack off is what it felt like when I finally landed myself a human position that was not in the Army. When I first got out, I took the first thing that was going to pay me, and that was a glorified SIGINT analyst position. It was insane. I was looking at numbers all day long, and I hated every second of it. I was working it as a tangent. It was a very toxic place that I was working. I'm not going to out them because, maybe it's better now, but the people I was working with were horrible, and I hated every second of it. So when I finally, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if this is the place that I'm thinking about, we had discussions about your time there and how you were separated from your family while you were there and all that.
Because I was like, I need a paycheck. We got to figure something out. I still, I got 3 kids. 2 of them were in school at the time. I mean, they still are. But when I first got out of the Army, I had one that had just started kindergarten, and I had one that was in the 3rd grade, I think, at the time. And they were in the middle of the school year. They had only been in the school year for like 2 months at this point. So I was like, let's not uproot them right this second. So the plan was like, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to start doing this job. I'll find us a house and we'll get settled and we'll get them to move our stuff up there. And then you guys will come up. Maybe we'll wait till the end of the school year, all this other stuff. And then I got there, and 3 months later, I was looking for another job because I cannot look at numbers all day long. This is killing me. I was completely miserable. So the whole plan got interrupted. And really this job that I took in DC, it was a whim. I had started interviewing for other places, and I saw this and I was like, man, a debriefer slot as a contractor, that's almost unheard of. Like, it's hard to find a place where they'll let you actually collect. I was like, well, I might as well put in for it. And I did. And then I didn't hear shit for like 3 months. I didn't hear a single thing. And apparently it's just because they were just collecting resumes. So I was ready to find something else, maybe go down to Huachuca and teach or something like that. And then I finally get this call, and they're like, yeah, we want you to come in. They were going to try to do like an over the phone thing. I was like, no, I want to meet you guys in person because I'm a humanitarian, and that's the best way I'm going to get this job is if I meet you in person and I'm able to react to you in person, and I'm able to, have a real conversation with you. You can do some of it over the phone, but it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to have classified discussions, but if I come down there, maybe we'll. And they're like, well, we don't really fly people out. I was like, don't worry about it. This one's on me. I'm coming. You set up the time, and I will be there.
That got you the job right there.
It might have. I don't know. But, it's not that bad. Where I was before, it's an 8-hour drive to DC from where I was before. And, I got to see some friends while I was there. And I think I came and visited you while I was there.
I think so, yeah.
Because you were out this way. So I took it as like, it's a trip to DC. I had PTO. I took that. I came down and I did an interview in the vault, and they got to ask me all the cool questions because I was in the vault, and I hadn't even made it back up to where I was before they called me and said, "We want you." I was like,
Yeah.
"Hell yeah!" I'm like, yeah. So yeah, it was a whim thing that I didn't expect to get, and then it turned out to be. Not only did it turn out to be great, but they offered me a great salary. The benefits were fantastic, and from that, from the moment I got there, I've just been loving life. And then it just so happened the federal position opened up, and I was able to get work into that. So now I can actually work towards the federal side of things too. The plan is right now, eventually I'm a 14 now. So hoping one day I'll be able to aim towards that SES level thing. I've been looking into things like, apparently they do these programs in different agencies where they will like actually, you basically JDA somewhere for 6 months or a year or whatever, and you get taught how to become an SES, and you can do that at the 14 or 15 level. So I just became a Fed, so maybe 2 or 3 years from now, I'm going to look into doing something like that, then aim towards being an SES level. I keep telling my boss I want to take his job eventually.
And any good boss will prepare you for that, right?
And he seems to be, and that's the worst part. I'm like, I'm not sure I want to deal with some of the things you deal with, but okay, yeah, let's do this. I'm still, I'm still looking at the leadership lessons I learned in the Army. Honestly, you personally had the misfortune of seeing me in my worst leadership phase in my entire Army career. I was not very happy with the time I had there from my own performance, but like I learned a lot about how not to deal with certain people and how to deal with certain situations from my time at Riley when I was in your platoon. And I guess most people that are watching this probably have some military experience, so they probably know what a 360 assessment is, where you go and you have like subordinates and superiors and people of the same rank as you go in and evaluate you as a leader and as a soldier, stuff like that. My assessments from Fort Riley, some of them were just atrocious.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was one in particular that was just like, this is the worst NCO in the entire Army. But I kind of know who it was because, like, I get it. But then my other assessments when I had them done at Gordon later on were much, much better because I had a bad time at Riley and I learned from it. So I'm aiming more now towards, trying to develop myself as a leader in ways that I didn't really feel like I internalized when I was in the Army. But ultimately, I'm still passionate about doing the IC work, about doing the human work and pushing farther up that chain now so that I can be one of those people, I want to be in the room where it happens, right? So that I can help influence the whole community, in a way that seems like it makes sense.
So you said that you got 3 kids. So what about your passions as a dad, as a father?
Oh man, those are the best ones. They really are. Right now, my 2 youngest ones, I have a 4-year-old boy. He's my youngest. We call him the professor because his name is Charles Xavier. Yeah. So you nerds out there, you can just deal with that.
Oh, the nerds know. If you know, you know.
Yeah,
and
you know. Yeah. I have a daughter who's 8, Sydney. She is actually about to turn 9 in about a month here. And I have a tween, Jadzia, also a nerd name, I guess. And she's 11. She'll be turning 12 this year, later on in the year. My 2 youngest are all about Halo right now. We don't let them watch the TV show. That's a little bit too much, but they love playing Halo with me for some reason. I started it up randomly one day, and they were just like, they couldn't get enough out of blasting aliens. So I was like, all right, well, you guys want to blast some aliens? They're like, yeah, we want to blast some aliens. And so, Sydney likes playing video games already. She was into Minecraft, and we have some of the Lego games, like Lego Harry Potter and Lego Star Wars, that kind of thing. She had already liked playing those, so she was kind of versed in video game knowledge, that kind of thing. but Charlie surprised all of us because he figured it out. He's a little bit rougher around the edges, obviously, but even as a 4-year-old, he can move and he can shoot, and he gets killed a lot, but he loves it. And it's just, every weekend it's like, Dad, can we go play Halo today? Like, yeah, let me finish this thing and let's go play Halo. So that's one of my favorite things. Legos are a big thing in our family, and you can probably see back here, I got Lego Yoda here.
Okay, that is Yoda and not Grogu.
But we're a Lego family. My son just adores Legos. That's all he ever wants. He doesn't play with normal toys anymore. Like, he has them, but he's just like, nah, I want to build this and then take it apart and then lose 2 pieces and then find other pieces that go in that spot. And so we can sit and just play with Legos and build stuff and take it apart, and like the way you feel like Legos were designed to be played with. And we have a great time with that. The girls, not so much. They like it. I think they like watching us build, but they're not too big into that. Jadzia really likes helping me build Halloween props. That's probably the hobby that I guess I got that I really started getting into the last couple of years.
You guys do have some really cool Halloween props. As a matter of fact, I know, when we reach out to get you on the podcast, we ask for 2 things. We ask for the bio and the photo.
Yeah.
But bro, some of those prop videos, we need that.
Yeah.
We need that. We need the people to be able to see some of this stuff that you guys have come up with.
Well, okay, so let me be clear. A lot of that I'm not necessarily coming up with. There are a lot of like maker videos out there that we kind of try to either take for ourselves or try to put our own spin on or something like that. A lot of it's taken from other sources, and they probably take it from other sources too, right? But I think it's the act of doing it that we have fun with.
Just getting together as a family.
Yeah. So Jadzie's a painter, especially her. She's a painter. So she loves doing art of pretty much all kinds, and so she likes, but painting is kind of one of those that's special to her. And so even though you're not really making an artwork, if we're building like a foam tombstone, the process of it kind of intrigues her. And so we'll do stuff like we'll go and buy like the cheap styrofoam ones that you get at, what's the Halloween store that comes up every year?
Yeah, like Spirit and
Halloween or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, like $10 or whatever. You can get them at like Michael's, whatever, a little bit cheaper. But then we'll take them and we'll make them. We'll give them a makeover. We'll seal them up and put some dry lock on them, make them look a little bit more stone-like, and then we'll do some paint accents to them, that kind of thing, and make them look like tombstones, and not just cheap little props that you put in the yard. And then every Halloween we build a graveyard in our front yard, and we're going to be that house. We're going to be the house that you want to go to for Halloween. Right? That's what we're aiming for. But that process of us coming together and putting that stuff together, even if it's somebody else's idea, is really what we like to do. So I think you saw the video of like the cauldron that we did this last year. That was somebody else's idea. We put a few of our own little spins on it. But the basic idea came from somebody else.
Yeah, and then I think you guys did one like the LED lights with like talking pumpkins or something. Man, you guys have some cool stuff that you did for Halloween.
Yeah, so that's actually a projector. There's a company that you can buy stuff from called Atmos Effects, and there's a whole bunch of companies that are not quite that professional grade. But they put together like the videos that you project onto different places, and they've got all kinds of things. So we try to incorporate some of those. The talking, singing pumpkins is one of them, and that's kind of like the highlight in the neighborhood. I think this next year, if I have the time, I want to build like these giant pumpkins that are like 3 feet wide and put it on there so they take up like the whole driveway or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, so we do what we can. We eventually want to like get into making our own stuff and that kind of thing, but this last 2 years has just been time crunched because of between some work trips that I had to take and I was doing my master's for the last year and a half. So I was a full-time student and working full-time, and that was just a lot. It takes up all your time, pretty much all the time you have. So hopefully this year will be better. We're going to build a fence around our cemetery this year, because last year a little girl tried to run through our yard, and I'm not going to be the parent that lets kids run through the yard and hurt themselves, because she came really close to tripping on a wire. And if she might have fallen on something that would hurt her.
Yeah.
We don't want that. So we're going to build like a cemetery fence around our cemetery. Those are the big things. Getting into video games a little bit more now that my master. I've only got one big project that's due at the end of the summer, my capstone, and then my last classes will be done next week. So as those things wind down, I'm starting to get back into like video games and some of the things that I liked to do before I started the masters.
Okay. Yeah, man, because I need you to come on board with Destiny, bro.
Is it good? I haven't played it yet. So
it's so good. It's so good. And now it's a lot. So it is a shooter. And they kind of tried to expand the world a little bit, but it's a lot more about the lore and the stories behind each one of the characters that makes it very intriguing for me. And it is the people who, they made Halo. So if you're a fan of Halo and you're a fan of how their style of shooters is played, you'll love Destiny, bro.
I mean, I like all the styles of shooters, but I'm a fan of the lore pieces behind them, right? Like, so Call of Duty is great. Don't get me wrong. But they have decent storylines, but nothing that's really in depth. There's a story, you play out the story, but you're not going into this happens years ago in the time of the dragons or whatever. You don't get into world building really.
That's Destiny. Destiny is all about the world building. And I need to shoot you a link. It's kind of long. It's like a 3.5 hour long video that kind of explores the lore of the first Destiny. And then you kind of build upon that for Destiny 2, which is like the active iteration of the series right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I've been saving up since Christmas. I've been saving up for a new Series X. So I'm gonna have to look at getting some of the more powerful games once I actually buy it, because I think I'm almost there. I think I got enough saved up for it. I just gotta wait for it to get in stock somewhere.
Yeah.
And then because they've been hard to find. But yeah, I want to get into some more games that like I will like, because most of the games we have downstairs are stuff that I can play and the kids can play, kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love Lego Star Wars as much as the next person, but having something that's a little bit, because I can't play zombies or else my kids get nightmares, that kind of thing.
So you kind of let it slip earlier, like first 3 minutes of the podcast, and I've been dying to ask about this.
Oh yeah.
Musician Joe, you said that you were a musician. I know for a fact that music is probably your number one passion. So let's talk about that a little bit, man. So what was it like your time as a musician?
Oh man, that was another life. Like, you got to understand that it's still very prevalent in my life, but that was pre-Army Joe. That was a whole nother thing. When I was in high school, I decided at some point that I wanted to be a band director. I wanted to be a band director at a university. So like my last year in high school, I took something like 5 music classes to finish out all my electives. I had, marching band and wind ensemble and jazz choir. And we had this thing called Madrigals, which was like a choir that did medieval songs. I was in the show choir. I was in the musical that the school put on that year with one of the lead roles. I went full send, right? And then I went to Kansas State and I was a music ed major for 2-3 years before I really started was like, oh, I don't know if this is what I want to do. I actually bounced out of it once or twice. Like, I declared myself as an English major at one point, and I declared myself as psychology major at some point. For like a semester. It was stupid. And then but I always kept coming back to it. I was mainly played the tenor saxophone, real heavy into jazz. Stan Getz is still my favorite thing to listen to. Started really expanding my appreciation of different forms, because when I got to college, I was like stereotypical white dude in Kansas. Like, I'm an AC/DC Aerosmith kind of guy. That's all I'll ever need, right? Well, then I started realizing there were other things out there.
Hey, there's other things, other music out there.
There is tons of other music out there. So I gained a real big appreciation for jazz. I gained a real big appreciation for hip hop. Things that I swore I hated when I was in high school suddenly were some of my favorite things now. Like my first 2 or 3 years in college, like I can remember spending hours listening to Dr. Dre and Snoop and, trying to make up for lost time almost. I'm listening to Biggie and Juice, and Tupac, and trying to figure out like, where did they come up with these beats? And that led me down into funk and the soul stuff from the 70s where they got a lot of the cuts. And I'm like, man, this stuff's awesome too. I mean, I probably spent an entire semester with, George Clinton in my ears because I was just like, this is amazing. And I mean, that led me from one thing to another. I ended up doing some work as a DJ my last 2 years in college. So I was actually doing weddings and parties and DJing at clubs and stuff like that. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do now. Because maybe the school thing isn't going to work, but maybe I'll head down that road. But then I realized that doesn't pay the bills unless you get really famous, and it's hard to make a living off of just weddings. And that's probably one of the reasons why I finally decided, okay, I'll do the Army. Because originally, so before I was going to be a grunt, I was actually going to be in the Army band. I had done, I went through the auditions for it. I passed the auditions. I was going to go and do all that. It was a whirlwind. It was a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's still something in my day. I work best when I got music in my ears. Like the one thing that always bothered me about the Army is that most places I worked, I couldn't have headphones on. I couldn't work with music in my ears. Now I'm in a place where I have, I got a nipper right next to me, or our version of a nipper, so I can listen to YouTube or whatever on that while I'm working on the other side. Mm-hmm. But it's still, it's every day. It's still one of those things that I don't even think about, because I don't even bring it up, right? So you said I dropped at the beginning of the podcast. I don't really bring it up. I say like, oh yeah, I was a musician, and then I move on, because it doesn't occur to me to bring up the idea that music is a thing. Because to me, everybody should have music. Like everybody should be integrated in their lives. I made the mistake one time of introducing my kids to one song from Hamilton, and so now suddenly they love show tunes. And then so it's one of those things in this house. It's always on. Like there's always music. My daughter, if she's drawing, she has she's a little young for a phone in our opinion, but we've got her a tablet that she has music on, she has videos on, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she's constantly listening to stuff. She went through a Harry Potter phase for like a year where all she listened to was the Harry Potter theme, like 6 hours a day. It was
that's a bit rough.
It was. I mean, but as far as they're concerned, it's just part of what we do as a family. Right?
Yeah.
But I've also had, we've had in this room, our dining room's just this way. So we'd have dinner, and then our girls would come in here after, while my wife and I are just sitting around talking over empty plates. And they would, when they were in their Hamilton phase, they were going and putting on their play dresses and coming in here and singing to Hamilton. We got like a little dinner show every night, and that's just the way it is in our house.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So, I mean, you come to our house, you're going to hear something. One of us is going to be tapping on something, or we're going to have music in the background, and it's ubiquitous in this house. It's impossible to get away from.
And your wife is a bit of a musician as well, isn't she?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, she was in the marching band with me, so we met at in the K-State marching band. She was a tenor sax player too. She played the flute, I think, a little bit in high school before that. She was not a music major. She's way smarter than I am, so she graduated with a chemistry degree with honors, and then decided like that's great. Like I wanted to finish this, and I want to prove to myself that I can do these things. And she's like, can I just be a mom? And I was like, I guess. I mean, it's really weird because like growing up, I was thought like I'm going to marry some woman who's very ambitious, who wants her own career, who wants to go do these things, and we're going to find a way to work that together. And then I ended up with this woman who's like, I just want to be there and do all the housework. And I'm like, okay, I guess. And so we work out and figure out a balance. But she's like, I just want to be a mom, and she does. She does all the, if somebody needs to go to school to do something, she's the one that does it, and she takes care of. Like nobody can say she doesn't work because man, she puts in her work. But she looks at it as that's just like her job in the family is to do all those things. That way I don't have to because I'm off doing this job over here. Not that we have anything wrong with families that have dual income or dual workers, but that was just what she wanted to do. But it's still like I'm glad she's not here because she wouldn't like that I'm going to say this to a public audience. But I really wish she was more apt to be vocal in terms of music. You know what I mean? Like she has this gorgeous voice, and the only time I ever really get to hear it is if like she's singing to herself in the kitchen, or if we're at church or something. So I'm like, God, I want to hear you sing. I want to hear you sing more. And I've tried to tell her like, you can sing more, please. Like I want to hear you, and she gets shy and shuts down on me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she she doesn't know how good she has it, man. Yeah, have you tried to get her? Because you're a little bit into gaming, a little bit into music. Have you ever tried to get her on like the gaming rock band or?
Oh God, she was the one that introduced it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. She brought Guitar Hero. Don't make any mistakes. She's into it. When we were in California, she went on. I don't remember what it was, but she went home to Kansas for something for a short amount of time, and she came back and she's like, "We gotta go to the store." And I'm like, I mean, she got off the plane and she's like, "We gotta go to the store because I have something that we're gonna buy, and you are going to absolutely love it." And we went and we like immediately went and bought the early version, the first Guitar Hero, and for a musician, it blew us away. Like, this is amazing. This is the most amazing thing ever. Combined two of my favorite things in the entire world. We have, I think, every Guitar Hero game that's been made for the Xbox system. We have every Rock Band game that's been made for the Xbox system. Actually, at the time, I think we had a PlayStation 2, so we probably had them for those. I'm really upset that my drums don't work anymore because they got damaged in a move. And they're really expensive to find now, but we have the drums for Rock Band. We got
crazy expensive to find now,
and they still do it. Like so, it's hard to go back now and find time to just sit down and do all that stuff. Occasionally, I'll pick up one of the guitars and play it, but it's kind of it takes a little bit of effort because you gotta like find the guitar and make sure it all plugs in right and all that. If I'm gonna play video games, I'm gonna have a very limited window, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with all that. I just want to pick up a controller and play. Right?
Yeah.
But I have come home and walked into them with her and the kids, and they're just sitting on the couch singing. Like they'll just pull the mic out and do the singing part of the Rock Band games.
Yeah.
And they're basically doing karaoke on a video game system. Which I'm like, at that point, I'm like, why don't you guys just do actual karaoke to the songs you want to sing, not just the songs on the games? But whatever. I think they like the idea of echoing back at them.
They got like 600 songs on the games now, man. So
eventually I want to get a setup like you got though. I keep saying that, and I keep saying I'm going to do it. I might actually do it now, but I want to get a setup where I got like an actual pro system where I can actually play drums and cymbals and make sense, and they won't break if I hit one with too hard or something like that.
Yeah. And all I mean, really all I did was I bought an actual drum set
Right.
and
Yeah.
and just got a module that I could connect to the controller.
See, I don't know if they do that for Xbox. I think they only do it for the PlayStation. I got to
I
look
mean,
into it a little more.
well, I mean, PlayStation is the better
Oh,
system to
here
do it
we
on.
go. Here we go.
Yeah, I think it. Well, I don't know. I think it does. I think you can get like a module for Xbox as well. I think you could do both of them.
Maybe. I've considered buying like a PlayStation 4 now that the 5 is out, right? I've considered buying a 4 so that I can like a used one or something just for that.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
find a refurbished one at GameStop or something for $200 and then, you know, put the thing together just so I have those games and that'll just be
yeah,
like a gaming system. But that is a little bit farther down on my priority list.
yeah. And it takes a lot of time to get everything set up, and then it
Yeah.
takes up a lot of space. And like you said, when you have that limited window, you are not trying to drag all that stuff out from underneath the cobwebs in the closet and set it all up. And then by the time you get everything ready, like the kids are going to bed and it's
Yep.
just you trying to bang on drums, but quietly. It's just a hassle at that point. But yeah, I think it is a cool like family, like, you set everything up on a Friday night and have like just a family night, or
Yeah.
you invite friends. What I used to do in Kansas is invite the whole freaking platoon over,
Yeah.
and we eat pizzas and throw back a couple beers and play rock band until the neighbors get upset with us.
Good times. Really was.
It was, man, and I still try to cling to some of those memories, man. I want to bring them back. I
Maybe
really
one
do.
day.
Yeah. All right, Joe.
I need to get you out of the Army so you can come work with me. And then we'll get our whole office together one day.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I tried to make it an entire episode without mentioning how close I am to retirement, and Joe just brought it up. So I'm looking, man. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. As a matter of fact, I'm about 2 months away from submitting that packet, bro.
Woo.
Letting HRC know that I intend to retire. So yeah, I said that's going to be my birthday gift to myself in August. So I'm doing it, man.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I hope to God we have a position open when you get that.
You'll have one somewhere.
I might.
Semper Gumby, baby. I'll be flexible.
Hey, good things are coming. If we're looking 6 months, 8 months out, we might have something. It just may not be here. That's the only thing that'll get it is if the wife's not cool with going to, somewhere on the other side of the country or whatever. California is expensive.
Yeah, California is expensive. I'm sure you would make the salary very worth. No, I you know what, man? If the salary is right, I will go anywhere.
That's kind of the way I am. Like, and that's the way I was with this job. I basically set myself a bottom line for working in DC that I gathered from people that I had knew that lived here and worked here as contractors. And I just set a bottom line. I was like, if they meet this line, I'm going. Like, taking it, done deal. And it turned out that they went significantly over it. So I was very lucky.
And where you're at is a pretty good spot. So like, you don't need, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg where you live. It's expensive, but it's not like inside the beltway expensive. So
no. Yeah, I mean, I live a little bit farther south. So, but that was a conscious decision. Like, we wanted the yard. We wanted to be able to have a good school, but the yard. And how's that saying go? Like, if you live anywhere in the DC area, you can pick one, or you have commute and your house and the schools. And you pick two that are good, but the third one's going to be shitty. And so my commute is shitty.
So you suffered the commute. Yeah, I remember when I first got there. So I get there in like August 2018, and I'm headed home, and I've been in traffic. It's hot, and I've been in traffic for probably 90 minutes at this time. And I just pick up my phone and I call my wife and I'm like, I think we fucked up. That's how bad. 1 month in, and the commute it almost broke me, man. But I also, I was doing something that I loved and doing some really cool missions and being on the inside and networking. And So all of those cool things ended up outweighing the commute. But boy, that commute almost broke me, man. 1 month in, and I just kind of saw the bigger picture and stuck it out.
Yeah, I'm actually really lucky because now that I'm a Fed, there's a program that you can do that they have for federal
Yes.
employees.
Yes.
They will do some reimbursement for your if you engage, like if you go on the train,
If you
with
do
the
public
metro,
trans, yeah.
any of the public trans, they'll do some reimbursement. And so what I've actually figured out is that it'll only cost me something like $30 a month when it all works itself out if I take the train every day to work. And so as soon as I'm done with my classes and I don't have to go up to campus all the time, we're going to be using that quite a bit because that's going to be a huge money saver for us.
Yeah, man. Especially if these gas prices keep going
Oh man,
skyward. Yeah.
How bad is it in Texas?
I mean, it's not nearly as bad as it is where you are, New York, Cali. It's rough out there. Here, we just kind of sort of eclipsed $5.
Oh, it's not that. It's around that here. In fact,
Yeah.
so last time I got gas, it was $4.99, but it was like $4.96 earlier today when I went past the gas station. So
okay. Yeah, that's about where it is here. You know, of course, my vehicle has to take premium, so I'm paying over $5, but regular is like hovering right around $4.90 to $5. But, whew,
but
my
you also
brother,
probably don't have a 50-mile commute either.
yeah, I don't. And a full tank, I could make a full tank last like 2 weeks out here if I
That's
wanted
pretty.
to. If I was smart, if I was smart and didn't like drive to PT, then drive home, drive to work, then drive home for lunch, then drive back to work. Yeah, if I didn't do that, I couldn't do that for 3 years in DC. I couldn't do that at all. Like,
Yeah,
I leave the house at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not home until almost 8 o'clock at night. And that was my DC life. And so
that's everybody's DC life. I mean,
yeah,
the way it
so
is.
I kind of enjoy being able to say, you know what, I'm going home to, have lunch today, mess with the kids because they're
I
out of
mean,
school now. So
I did that when I was at Bragg, like because we lived on post when I was at Bragg, so it was a mile and a half or something like that from our house to the unit. So I could literally just walk there before PT if I wanted to,
yeah,
or I started biking quite a bit. Like I just biked to work, but I was always coming home after PT. I was always going home for lunch. Just being like, I got somebody who likes me. I'm going to go hang out with her.
yeah, go hang out with her at least for like 30-40 minutes before I have
Yeah.
to come back in this place. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, same thing, man. And we're like 4 miles away, where I'm at now. So it's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So yeah, man. I guess we're at a point where we can wrap this up unless you want to keep going.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, you're the one with the questions, man. And you're the one that's got to entertain the masses here.
I asked you like 4 questions in 90 minutes, bro.
You asked me 4. I told you I like to talk about myself. I don't know what the problem is here.
This is the platform for it, man. No, I don't really have any questions right now. I think you I mean, I would like to actually have you back on as a guest so that we can kind of talk through our time in the same platoon together, because I think that almost 2.5 years, that period, a lot of growing, a lot of changes in the Army occurred.
Yeah.
And I think that we like just sharing the crazy stories that we had during that time
For a lot of them.
would be pretty compelling content for the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we just table that discussion for another podcast, and
Sure.
we wrap it up here. But before we wrap it up, do you have anything that you want the people to know? You have any social media accounts that you want them to follow? You got any major projects coming up?
No. So I have a Twitter, but I keep it mostly private, like not private, but I keep it what's the word? Incognito.
Mm-hmm.
It's an anonymous account that
Okay.
has a non-name thing. No profile pics, stuff like that. And that's mainly just because I'm still an active member of the IC, and there's some sensitivity there.
Yeah.
Plus, I've seen people that have one bad decision and then they get trouble at work, stuff like that. And I never want anybody to I didn't even talk about the agency I work for on Twitter, even when I'm under the anonymous account, just because I don't want to ever put them in the position of having to decide, well, was this bad enough did this make us look bad enough that we have to fire this dude?
Yeah.
And then I feel like that makes me able to speak a little bit more freely. Most of the time I'm just bitching as an old veteran about, stuff that people talk about on the internet. I've somehow managed to let myself get swallowed into mill Twitter, and I somehow also talk about nuke policy over here with these guys because of my masters, and but it's also just me complaining about things like Star Trek and Halo and shit like that too. No, nobody has to follow me. I'm good with my 60 followers or whatever. I did have a good idea for a YouTube channel, but I don't know if I'll ever get enough time to get it off the ground. I'm gonna take scenes from movies and TV and critique them from an interrogator standpoint. But since I don't put my face out there, I was gonna use a little puppet or something like that, and just have me in the corner making commentary according to FM 2-22.3.
Bro, your face is on YouTube right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I don't have to make it completely clear,
That's pretty funny, man. I mean, eventually you're gonna run out of material though, so you're not gonna be able to do weekly or monthly. You might get a year's worth of content out of this.
So I'm not trying to become a YouTube star. I'm not gonna monetize with millions of followers. It was just thought it'd be fun to, waste some time doing that.
That's pretty good, man. You should. You know what? If all you do is critique, if you just splice the video and have your puppet critique it, I don't think it's very resource intensive. I think you could put that together pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't need a whole lot of equipment, right? I just need I don't have to buy a ring light and super awesome mic. I can use my stupid gaming headset and just be all right, guys, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm talking about this, and I'll do one video that covers the FM because it's unclass and I can talk about that.
Oh God, yeah, and that would immediately tank your YouTube career. So
whatever. Again, I don't care. Oh no, I'm not a YouTube star.
Yeah,
I'm 42 years old. I don't need to be a YouTube star.
Bro, this is essentially what I did. I have a laptop. I don't even have a fancy mic and a ring light. I got ceiling light, cheap laptop that I bought to go to school with, and I figured out how to put a couple of icons on a graphic overlay and talk to my buddies, man.
Cool.
That's what this is.
I like this though. I might have to use it myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it. I gotta finish school first. So
finish school, man. Finish your masters.
I'm almost done. I got 2. In fact, that's this weekend is basically my final projects for these other 2 classes, and then I'm done with classes. It's been a year and a half. Let me tell you.
Awesome, bro. Well, I'm glad that I could be the break in between your final. What'd you say? Your capstone assignments or whatever.
Yeah, I'm taking a class on science diplomacy and a course on national security. There's basically just electives that I needed to finish out, and then I'm in a group with for my capstone that's doing a research project on Earth observation tech and the regulation of it. So it's because it's my master's is in international science and tech policy. So the capstone has to be in that vein. So we're looking at the overregulation of Earth observation tech in the U.S. Because the hypothesis is that the overregulation is causing Earth observation companies that are commercial to go overseas because they can face less regulation there. Well, that may face a problem for national security because we have commercial entities not collecting in domestically now. They're going somewhere else. So yeah, it's been a ride, let me tell you.
Yeah,
I'll
man,
be glad to be done with it.
sounds like you're building towards like a career in politics or something.
No, not politics. Policy though. Like I said earlier when we were talking about my career, I'm still looking at being a senior executive service kind of level type stuff. I want to be able to shape policy. You asked me earlier, like, what are the things that I took out of the Army? Well, one of them that I took out of the Army is that sometimes policy is stupid and
Sucks.
it needs to be revamped, right? So I want to understand why we have a stupid policy first. And then if it can be better, I want to help make it better, right? And unfortunately, the only way to do that is to get up to a high enough level in the leadership that people look at you and say, hey, this guy's got the expertise and this guy's got the leadership skills. Let's put him in charge of this and let him influence that policy. And when it comes to national level stuff, there's from what I can tell, maybe not every sector has this, but I can tell there's a stigma around education. They at the national level, they want you to have an advanced degree. They want you to have a master's or even a PhD. And I have a GI Bill because I'm in certain circumstances, I can't pass it to my kids. So I let the VA pay for me to get a master's in policy, and it worked out well for everybody.
Yeah.
So fun times, but I'm glad to be done with it. I probably should have gone a little bit slower, but I wanted to get it over with.
Yeah. Hey man, nobody knows you like you.
It was better. If I had waited, I would have ended up probably doing poorly because I would have put something off or said like, oh, well, I got another year before I have to do this. I'll just wait till then. And then I would have been at risk of not doing it because something came up, like, oh, I got to do this work thing. So I'm not going to enroll this semester because I got to do this work thing. And that would have been bad. I know myself enough to know that I learned enough in that 6 years at K-State about how bad of a student I was then. And I knew how to fix it when it came to do my master's
at K-State.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. So yeah, yeah. If you ever want to do this again, you want to talk about our Fort Riley time,
yeah,
you're more than welcome to do that. I might have to have whiskey at that one though, because that was a painful period.
Well, let's do it, man. We can unpack those years. Would you say the worst leadership years of your career?
Yeah.
We can unpack that.
I was a bad leader. Like I say that like not trying to kick myself, just like a true critical look at my time as a leader in a leadership position. And this is like completely aside of the physical fitness part of it. Like I just made poor leadership decisions in how I dealt with my soldiers. But yeah, we can unpack that another time.
Okay.
Whenever you
want. All right. Well, we'll bring that to the forefront another time. Cool. You got any last words for us?
No. No. Go Army, beat Navy. Isn't that one cool?
Yeah, all of that is very cool, man. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the latest episode of Veterans of the Game podcast. Come back next time and join us to hear more stories from veterans of the game of life. Chief out.